Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are back with the series of looking at a vocalist's best live moments. Well, best I can find anyway, because sometimes footage can be tough to get a hold of. But anyway, today we're going to be focusing on Ian Thornley of Big Wreck, who is vocalist and guitarist extraordinaire for the band, and he's really damn good at both of those things. It's not a combo you always get, guitar god plus excellent singer. But today I've got 6 clips of him singing that we're going to be going through today to highlight, so let's get into the list here. Number 6, Believer at the Sound of Music Festival, Burlington, Ontario, Canada, June 14th, 2025. Okay, so in this first clip, we're going to be looking at one of their most recent songs because I kind of wanted to hit songs from each area or each era of the band if possible. So we're going to be starting with Believer here. Now this one's probably the least impressive clip that we're going to be looking at today, but it's still a really good song. I like how it starts with some of the, kind of lower understated vocals with this nice melody and then builds into it, builds more and more until we get to this beautiful wide chorus where he does some really nice belting, which is something he is particularly good at, is that upper head voice, or that head voice belting kind of thing, and he does a really good job of that here. It's also a really great melodic flow to the vocals and how they fit with the music, and every now and then we get these nice spots where he decides to put a little bit more into it and give us some distortion interspersed with the same kind of, more understated vocal. That's a really good touch with this performance, and it's also just a pretty great song. Alright, let's get moving to the next one here. Number 5, That Song, live at P&E, Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, August 29th, 2013. Alright, so we're going from most recent Big Wreck to very classic 90s Big Wreck here with this jump to That Song. This is their most well-known song and most popular, and of course I had to include it on here somewhere, but I mean it's actually a really good vocal as well, even though it's one of their older songs. And what's great about it is there's a lot of this movement from head voice back down to chest voice and all that through this song, and he's very fluid with it. It's really tough to do those kinds of transitions a bunch of times and to be this fluid with it and careful. And of course I like how the vocals in here, there's some belts that pop up as the melody flows here, and they sound really good and really natural. You get these nice head voice belts again, and then we get to the chorus, which has some pretty powerful belting there, and it sounds really great. And then again, there's parts of distortion here that happen occasionally, but the thing that's impressive about this song is having to move through these different areas of the voice at a somewhat rapid pace in this song, and to go from these lower chest voice verse lines and then to jump to these head voice belts is a really difficult thing to do, and Ian Thornley is really good at it, and you have to be to write a song like this one. Alright, let's get to the next one here. Number 4, Bailout at the Summer of '99 Cruise, April 12th, 2025. Okay, so here we go. We got Bailout here, which is from their previous EP, Pages, that came out in 2023, I think is when that came out, late 2023. Now, we're going to a different kind of song here. This is a much more straightforward rock song than the previous two entries. And because of that, we get a lot more distorted vocals and they sound pretty good. Here in this performance, he's using two mics. He's got a mic that has more gain on it to give a weird kind of a distorted boxy sound, and then a regular mic, because that's kind of how the stuff was recorded on this song. But you know, it starts with these pretty quick vocals here where he's going through the words quickly with a little bit of distortion. And always going through words quick is always a challenge with vocals, especially when you're doing them live. Sometimes you get tripped up, but he doesn't at all, and it's fine. And then he switches to the clean microphone, does some more stuff, kind of does this in-between mixed voice section before it goes to the chorus, which builds from this lower mixed voice up into a high head voice belt. And then it ends with a belted distorted note, which is really good. Ian Thornley's distortion is always super consistent, really nice, and he's able to get a lot in that upper part of his head voice, which is actually a more challenging place to do it, but it actually seems like it's easier for him. But yeah, you got those big belts there. And then the bridge is nice because it's got a very long line where you have to do a consistent distorted vocal, and that's pretty difficult as well. He just does a good job navigating this melody and having to navigate all the different parts of his voice, having a mixed voice, head voice, and then, you know, the head voice with a distorted belting. So it's a song that's got a lot of things going on, and he's able to manage them really well, and he sounds really awesome. All right, let's keep moving on to the number 3 now. Number 3, Locomotive at Empire Theatre in Bellevue, Ontario, Canada, December 7th, 2019. Alright, so Locomotive is here. This was a big track off of their But For the Sun album in 2019. And this is a very difficult song to sing because, again, we're starting with an understative melody that builds a little bit, touches his head voice. It comes back down, and again, he's navigating the breaks between those things really well. And then we go to the pre-choruses that have a little bit of distortion in them and all that. And there's also, I mean, there's distortion throughout this song, which is what makes it difficult. And it's also very selective distortion because he's not doing it all the time. He's only doing it on certain words. And it can be tough to, we're already navigating breaks between our chest and our head voice. And then we're doing more distortion on top of that. And then the chorus is really great. It's all this mid-voice belting, and it sounds really nice, and he gets a nice distortion on the ends of the notes here. And this performance in particular, there are multiple performances of Locomotive that you can find, but this one is, he really sounded like he paced himself so he could hit the distortion extra hard on the words and the notes that really need it in this song. So he navigates this performance very smartly. And then every time we get to the end and hit the word road, it's always super distorted, and there's one that he drags out a little bit longer that sounds really great. You have all that stuff, and then the finale of the song is again the chorus twice, where he takes the second line of it and pushes it like a third higher and does distortion at the same time again, and then he hits it at the end, the final road, with the big distorted note that he really jumps up in his range in his head voice and then walks it down. Very powerful ending to the vocal, and this is a very high quality performance. Okay, number 2, we're closing in. Number 2, Fear and Cowardice at Gramercy Theater, New York, New York, June 1st, 2023. Alright, this is a personal favorite of mine, of theirs, Fear and Cowardice here. This one is different in that he's keeping his voice lower in the verses. There's not head voice as much here, but he's doing distortion though in this middle part of his voice, which has a totally different quality to it. It has this really great kind of funky attitude, you know, about doing the distortion in that part of his voice. It sounds really great. It's very consistent distortion there, and then we pop in some head voice notes every so often there that sound really great. But the chorus of this song is of course what makes it, and they do it a bunch of times in this song, but that's kind of the deal with it. It's great. It's this very melodic, big sounding chorus vocal that's great, and he has to go pretty high up in his head voice and do distorted belting. Like, these are pretty high notes that he's hitting this distortion on when he hits fear and cowardice. The word fear and then here in the line after it, those are pretty high notes that he's distorting. And when he gets to the end, it hits the Mayday. That is that's a pretty long belt to have that level of distortion. And sometimes he even pushes it up higher past what the normal pitch would be to kind of this second level. You know, it's crazy. It's kind of like when a jet, you know, breaks the sound barrier. They're kind of cruising along, and then they hit that speed and just boom, and it pops, you know, and that's kind of what he's doing with that. But that's the most impressive thing about this, and the later choruses, especially the last one, get a lot more powerful belts and things happening, and it's really incredible. And he ends this performance with holding out the last note for a really long time and maintaining consistent distortion that does not break at all. You know, sometimes when people are doing a long distorted note, it can kind of start going in and out a little bit and breaking up, but no, his distortion is the same until the note ends. And that is so hard to do at these pitches. I cannot iterate that enough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the big finale, number 1, is coming at you. Number 1, Albatross, live in Asheville, North Carolina, May 10th, 2022. And of course, I had to end this off with the live favorite, Albatross. This is a song that they play live at a lot of their shows, and people love the heck out of it. So we're gonna have to talk about it here, especially because it's a really impressive song and vocal here. Now, starting with the verse, this may not necessarily sound like a number 1 song, but I want you to pay attention to the texture of his voice and the softness in it. Even though he is belting, there's this tenderness to it that is a really tough balance to achieve. And then he, you know, has these parts where he drops down in his range for the melody, and it's a very beautiful melody. That's an important thing with this, is how the melody is written. The verses just sound really beautiful. And then it gets to the choruses where he's doing a lot of belting, a lot of going in between his range, chest voice, head voice, everything in between, hitting these high range distorted notes that sound crazy. And then we get to the main line of the chorus, which is "I'll wear the albatross," and that "wear" and the first syllable of albatross there, he's hitting a B4 with distortion that is really strong, and that's really hard to do. That note is up there, and for a male voice that is tough, but his technique is so dialed in, no problem for Ian. And the song goes basically the same from there. You know, the next verse is the same as the first one, although in this performance he takes some liberties and improvises the melody and sings it differently from the record, which is really cool. And of course the pretty slide guitar solo and all that, that's a really cool thing. This is a performance where you should watch the whole thing. And then the big finale is the final chorus, of course, where he always seems like he's belting a little bit harder on the last chorus just to, you know, give you a nice finale. But what happens here is you repeat that ending line several times. You know, it repeats twice after the initial one. And so the first one is how you normally expect it. The next one, he gives it a little more punch with his distortion. And then the final line, it's the same. And then he gears up for the big syllable, the big alba in albatross, where he jumps up to first a C, and then he goes to a D sharp 5, which is a really pretty high note. That's really high. Most people, that's going to be just clean head voice. And he does this really nice, consistent distortion on a D sharp 5 note, which is really hard to do. It's really hard. There's only there's not a lot of singers that can pull that off that well. And he's able to do it absolutely no problem. You don't get any of that Mickey Mouse kind of sound from him. It is just a straight head voice belt with a bunch of distortion. And then he holds out that last A note with the distortion for a long time to in the finale of the song. What can I say? The reason why this is number 1 is because the money shot when he hits the D sharp 5. But yeah, this is a great song. Anyway, even without that, that's just a nice little cherry on top. Alright everybody, I hope y'all enjoyed looking at these Big Wreck songs here and checking out Ian Thornley's incredible vocal talents. Like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment down below if you like. Don't forget to click the bell so you know when a new video is out on the channel. And I will see you guys next time in another video. Have a good one.